Hey guys, I'm the Comics Kid 2099, and I wanted to talk to you about a book that I read a little less than a week ago, Demon Knights Volume 1, Seven Against the Dark. I want to go ahead and start this video by saying this is, out of all of the New 52 stuff that I've read, the best thing that I've read from the New 52. And if you haven't been watching all of my videos over the last year or so over the stuff from the New 52, I've read the Volume 1 from both of the Superman titles. I read both of the Legion titles, Volume 1 for them. I read Justice League Dark Volume 1, All-Star Western Volume 1, Animal Man Volume 1, which is the only one that I didn't do a video for, and then I did OMAC Volume 1. And this is better than all of those. I loved this book, guys. I have almost nothing bad to say about it. In fact, the bad that I have to say about it isn't even that bad. It's really more, I'm puzzled, I'm curious, but I'm not angry. This is great, guys. This book is amazing, and I've heard that it was canceled. Of course, I'm like 3 years behind on DC stuff because there was 52 titles, and I was interested in like half of them. Nowadays, I'm less interested in some of them. After I heard some of the things about some of the titles that I was initially interested in, I was like, yeah, I don't have to read that anymore. I'm just going to mark that one off my list. Some of them, though, I'm still interested in. I got a late start on this. I think I got this for my birthday or for Christmas last year. Wound up reading it recently. I loved it, guys. I cannot wait to read the rest of this series. Basically, the premise is, for this book anyway, the premise is the Magnificent Seven as a medieval fantasy. The Magnificent Seven, also based on an older story called The Seven Samurai. It's basically the same story, where this town is in jeopardy, and these seven strangers have to work together to save the town. And this is not a new story by any means. Like I said, it was The Seven Samurai, The Magnificent Seven. Stephen King wrote a very big novel that was loosely based on it called Wolves of the Kala, part of the Dark Tower series. And this is basically that, with DC characters who are supernatural in origin and were around the days of... Actually, I don't remember when this is set. I think it's 400-ish years after Camelot, if I'm not mistaken. And one thing this book does, it takes something that Grant Morrison put forward in the Seven Soldiers maxi series that he did, I guess, about 10 years ago. And he put forward this idea that there have been multiple Camelots, and there have been multiple King Arthurs, multiple Lancelots, etc. And the Shining Knight that Grant Morrison introduced in Seven Soldiers is used here. And this book kind of references that idea because the Shining Knight here is a girl named Sir Yston, and Sir Yston is in this tavern where Jason Blood, Vandal Savage, and Madame Xanadu, they're all kind of chatting. Madame Xanadu and Jason Blood are talking about when they were at the fall of Camelot, and then Sir Yston is over there in the corner and says, "You guys are liars. I never saw you at Camelot." And it's kind of, if you haven't read Seven Soldiers, you might not understand the reference, but I thought it was kind of cool. It's saying, yeah, there have been multiple Camelots over the years. There wasn't just one. I thought that was kind of cool. The one thing, I guess I should go ahead and say, the one thing that I didn't like, and like I said, it's not a huge thing, it's a pretty minor thing. I wasn't entirely sure who this book was aimed at. I could give this book to anyone, and I think just about anyone would enjoy it. If I gave it to somebody who doesn't read comic books, they would just read it as a medieval fantasy story, and a pretty good one at that. If I gave it to someone who does read comic books, of course, they would know who Vandal Savage, Jason Blood, they would know those characters, and if they read a whole lot of comics, they might know who Madame Xanadu is, and Sir Yston, they might know who those characters are. But the problem that I have, and like I said, it's not a big problem, but Jason Blood / Etrigan the Demon acts different here than I've ever seen him act before. I've always known Jason Blood to be kind of a scoundrel, kind of a scheming scumbag, if you will. That alliteration was not on purpose. Kind of a schemer. And then when he lets the demon loose, the demon is just straight up evil. Now, of course, there have been different versions of the character. In the 1980s, Alan Grant did a pretty long run of the Demon comics, and in that run, Jason Blood was kind of a nice guy, and Etrigan the Demon was evil. Here, Jason Blood is more or less an innocent guy. He hasn't really done anything bad, and the Demon is not so much evil, he's more just selfish. He just kind of cares about himself and Madame Xanadu, and I'll get to her in a minute. So, in a way, he's kind of like the Grey Hulk, in that, you know, the Grey Hulk is a brute, he's mean to people, but he still likes Betty Banner. And Etrigan is kind of like that. And I was a little confused about that, because if this is handed to, say, one of my parents who neither one of them read comics, if I gave this book to them, they wouldn't notice the difference between Etrigan here and, say, Etrigan as used by Kevin Smith in his Green Arrow run. They wouldn't notice the difference of how Etrigan is being written. But this book is not being distributed to non-comic book readers. It's being sold as part of a line of comic books, and people who do read DC Comics, they are reading this, and I'm not sure how those people reacted to this, because on the one hand, this is a reboot, and when you reboot something, you can do anything different. You can do everything different. You don't have to do things the same. So I understand that Etrigan the Demon is being handled different here because it's a reboot, and also because this is set like 500-ish years before the present day, or more, maybe. I'm not even sure. I don't think it says what time it's set. Anyway, so yeah, I guess it's possible that Etrigan the Demon acts entirely different in the year 500 as he would in the year 2000. That's possible, but I'm almost to the point where I'm saying, if you were going to write Etrigan so incredibly different than he's been written in the past, why use Etrigan? And I understand the reason is name recognition. There are people who, if Paul Cornell wanted to go to Image Comics and do a series called Demon Knights with entirely new characters, and none of them were DC Comics characters, would there be as many people who would go and read that as there were when he did it at DC Comics and he used Vandal Savage and Etrigan the Demon? Probably not. Now, me personally, I would be interested in that series, but whatever. So yeah, I get that he's using Etrigan. We're putting Etrigan on the cover here because people are familiar with that character, but he acts so very different from everything that I've seen, I almost question why even bother using the character. A little bit the same with Vandal Savage. He acts, I don't want to say he's like comic relief, but he's definitely different here than I've ever seen him before. Now, ultimately, I get the feeling that I understand the character a little bit more at the end of this book, but he is still very different from all the other versions of Vandal Savage that I've seen before. Traditionally, when I see Vandal Savage, he is a straight-up bad guy. Here, he's a little bit more conflicted. In a way, he's a lot more like Etrigan the Demon is here, where he's more selfish. He's not necessarily evil for the sake of being evil. He's just out for himself, and if he doesn't think that the good guys are going to win, then he's going to go and work with the bad guys, and then if he doesn't think that they're going to win, then he's going to betray them, and that's a little bit of a spoiler, but whatever. Yeah, so that is my only big complaint here, is that those two characters, they act different than what I'm used to them acting, but I think it's okay because this is a reboot, and also this is set several hundred years before the present day, so it's understandable that maybe by the time you get to the year 2014, Vandal Savage is much more of a villainous character and less of a selfish character. Maybe that's a transition that happens off screen. I don't really know. What else did I like about this? I think, in general, I just found the characters to be very interesting. Madame Xanadu is in this, and if you will recall, I did a review of Justice League Dark a while back, and the first volume of that series, and I hated it. I did not enjoy it. I did not like any of the characters. I didn't know most of the characters, and I didn't really feel like that book did a good job of introducing those characters, and some of the characters, like Zatanna, who I've always hated, and Madame Xanadu, that book made Madame Xanadu a very unlikable character. I really hated her. I feel like if Justice League Dark had handled Madame Xanadu in the way that this book handles Madame Xanadu, I might have been interested in reading Volume 2. Now, admittedly, part of what works here about Madame Xanadu is her relationship to Jason Blood and Etrigan. I thought that was really what worked so well about her. But definitely, if you were to remove Etrigan and Jason Blood from Volume 2 of this series, but you still kept Madame Xanadu, I would still be interested in her now that you've laid the groundwork for kind of what her character is like and what she is like, what she does. And I'm not going to get too much into it, but I really enjoyed the way her character related to Etrigan and Jason Blood and the rest of the group. The rest of the group kind of is wary of her a little bit. I was really interested in her. And like I said, if she was handled this way in Justice League Dark, I would have been much more interested in Justice League Dark. I am a little curious about this character now. I've heard that she was in I think a Vertigo series from like the early to mid 2000s, and now that I've kind of sampled this character and I'm really interested in seeing more about her, I'm definitely going to go back and seek out that series if it's collected in trade, see if it's any good, because this has made me interested in that character. And I was always loosely aware of who she was, but I was never interested in her. She was never in anything that I had read other than Justice League Dark, and that did not make me interested in her. This has made me interested, so I'm going to go seek out that series, see if it's any good. What else do I like? This series is very much connected to the fall of Camelot, but it is not set around that time period. The very first issue starts at the very end of one of the falls of Camelot, and then it jumps forward a few centuries, and then we have characters who are connected to Camelot, for example, the Shining Knight. And if you have read Grant Morrison's Seven Soldiers maxi series, the Shining Knight is handled different here than she was in that series. There, she was just a normal person who grabs a flying horse and chases after a bad guy into a portal that leads into the 20th century, or 21st century. Here, she has drank some immortal water, and then she sleeps under a tree for a few hundred years, so she has not, there's no time travel involved. It's just she's really long-lived, and she'll come out of the ground every so often and do her thing. So this is a little bit different than the Seven Soldiers. I really wish, reading this made me really wish that the Seven Soldiers had been more critically acclaimed, and that maybe there were more people interested in working with those characters after Grant Morrison had done what he did with them in Seven Soldiers. I really wish we could have gotten a Shining Knight series set in the present day that was a sequel to Seven Soldiers, but whatever. She's still really cool here. I don't entirely understand everything about her. I don't know if it's just that I'm not understanding everything about her here, or if there will be more about her that will be revealed in later volumes. I'm not really sure, but I found her to be very interesting, and in a way, she is the crux of this series. Now, I almost think that she should have been featured a little more heavily, because there's one scene in this book that kind of, you get the feeling, okay, she is going to be the main part of this book. She is after the Holy Grail, and that's kind of very loosely the premise of the series after this volume, I think. I'm not sure because I haven't read the other volumes, but it seems to me that she is going to be seeking after the Holy Grail, and maybe the rest of these characters are going to be helping her look for the Holy Grail, maybe. And I feel like she should have been more heavily used as the main character of this book with 6 supporting characters if she is going to be the one searching for the Holy Grail. But whatever, that's not a big problem. I still really enjoyed this book, and I can't say enough good things about it. I don't want to say a whole lot about the spoilers here, just that if this sounds interesting to you, if you like fantasy stuff or DC superheroes, this is the best of both worlds here. It uses DC characters, but it doesn't overuse them, and this is also kind of playing into my theory that out of the DC New 52 stuff, the books that are set away from the DC universe are much better than the ones that are set in the DC universe. For example, this is separated from the rest of the DC universe by several centuries, and then the Legion of Superheroes book also separated from the rest of the DC universe by several centuries, and I wound up really enjoying both of those books. All of the others that are set in the DC Universe, I haven't really enjoyed those as much. So it's very interesting to see if that trend continues, or if I ever get around to reading Earth 2 Volume 1 to see if that continues there, because that's set in its own little world that's not part of the DC Universe. That's all I have to say here. This book was really amazing, guys. I really loved it. I cannot wait to get to Volume 2 of this series. I'm going to be really sad when this series ends. I'm curious if Paul Cornell stayed on it till the very end, because I'm very interested. If someone else was to do this series, would it be the same kind of magic? And I mean that in a little bit of a pun. But if Paul Cornell left after, say, Volume 2, would this be the same quality of good? And I personally think Paul Cornell is what makes this work. I had not read a whole lot by Paul Cornell before this. I think I had read did he do the Dark X-Men miniseries? Because I read that, and I thought it was okay. I didn't really think it was wonderful. But this is really good, and I'm going to go and look and see if he's done any indie-type stuff, like creator-owned stuff, because if he has, probably that's where he's going to be doing stuff kind of like what he did here. And I'm going to go and see if he did any of that stuff, see if it looks interesting to me. I'm done here. I enjoyed this book. I highly recommend that you guys go out and read it. And that's all I have to say here. I hope you guys enjoyed this book as much as I did, and I hope that you enjoyed the review that I did here. And I will be back later in this week to do some other kind of video. So until then, I will see you guys then. Have a great day.